Hey, it's the Chief buying with board games. Now, first of all, I do have a real cowboy hat somewhere. It's black Bart, I guess. However, this is my wife's kind of hat. And she's Puerto Rican. This has a Puerto Rican thing on it, but it was close, so I grabbed it. I like to wear goofy hats. Okay, I stole that from Tom. By the way, I'm on the set of my other review show, which is a whiskey review show. You'd be surprised how much people geek out on whiskey the same way they do on games. Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. I've run a few Scotch tastings at BGG, no more, no more. But today we're talking about the expansion for Bang the Dice game called Old Saloon. Now, if you haven't played Bang the Dice game, there was Bang the card game, and they're very similar, but they use dice. So first of all, here's what Bang is. Everybody's got hidden roles, except for one. You're going to get shuffled out a sheriff. There's a couple outlaws, there's a couple deputies, there's a renegade. This can play 3 to 8, I believe. Yes, 3 to 8. So you can mix and match. There's a little bit, you can have a little bit more than the 2, 2, 2, 2 sheriff, whatever. Whoever gets the sheriff flips a roll up right away. The goal of the outlaws is to kill the sheriff. They kill the sheriff, the outlaws win. The goal of the deputies is to keep the sheriff alive, kill off the outlaws, kill off the renegade. I'll talk about the renegade in a second. And if they do that, they win. If the renegade can get the outlaws killed and then basically kill off everybody else, just kill off the deputies, kill off the sheriff, and he or she is the last person standing, the renegade wins. What that renegade does is they're playing to keep the outlaws in for a while, maybe dump a couple deputies, and they're shifting sides, taking out the outlaws, and then eventually, hopefully, they come down mano-a-mano against the sheriff, and off they go, hopefully to win. And you do this with these dice. Everybody has their role. Again, most of the roles are secret, unless you are the sheriff. You have these little bullet tokens that are your life points. You have your hidden role of outlaw, renegade, sheriff being open, but everybody has a character card. So Kit Carson, okay? And your character card allows you to break the rules, do something different, a little bit different than everybody else. And there's, I don't even know how many roles there are. There's tons and tons of roles, all right? So you've got all these roles in the game. Just to give you an idea, here's more, all right? Tons and tons of rolls. I'm not going to do a close-up. So you've got your special little rule-breaking roll. You've got your hidden roll. And then you've got your dice. Think Yahtzee-style dice. And maybe I will have to go in and do a little bit of close-up to show kind of how these work. But I'll talk about it briefly real quick. Maybe I can get away with just throwing in some still shots. We'll see. I'll play it by ear. By the way, because I am on my Scotch set, we're also going to talk about a little Jesse James bourbon. Now, if you're not a drinker, fine, no problem. Like I said, I'm just doing something a little bit different. I happen to have 2 sets. ScotchSaysDummies.com, shameless plug if you want to go check out the other one. We do all kinds of whimsical kind of reviews on whiskey. However, I'll be pouring this in a little bit. Let me explain this. So when you roll these dice again, Yahtzee style, boom, I roll them. If I get a dynamite, I have to keep it. If I ever get 3 dynamites, it means I'm going to end up doing 1 damage to myself. I'm going to lose one of my little bullets. And your health isn't too much in this game. It could be 7, 8, 9. It's usually around in there. They've got a very cool timing mechanism that speeds this game up that Bang the card game didn't. Arrows. All right, when you have arrows, you collect them and they do damage to you once all the arrows in the pool are out. Now again, I'm not going to spend too much time on regular Bang because I want to talk about this, but I got to set the stage. You can also get a beer if you save the beer. It's one of the ones you pull off in your Yahtzee style rolling. A beer will heal you one. You have 3 little like bullet holes. That's a Gatling gun. That'll do 1 damage to everybody sitting at the table. And then the other thing you have on there is either a number 1 with like a bullseye or a number 2. The way it is the people sitting to my left and right, they're the number 1 spot. The people sitting to the next set out are the number 2 spot. Think pistol range and rifle range. And in order to do damage to the people next to me, I have to roll a 1, and I can pick. I might even have 2 ones, and I do 1 damage and 1 damage because I think they're both bad, or maybe they are both against my hidden roll. Or if I have a 2, I could go out to the next level and do damage to them. If I have 3 2s, I could do 3 wounds or 3 damage to the person that's 2 away from me. So that's as simple as the dice are. So you're either healing, doing damage, Gatling gun, doing damage to everybody at the table. Again, I may have my open roll, let's say Slab the Killer. That's in Spanish. I've got the Spanish. Here we go. Once per turn, you can use a beer to double a 1 or a 2. So I could take one of my beers and I could use it to double the hit I do on a 1 or a 2. So that's how he breaks the rules. Again, you got all these different cool rolls. So that's how the base game works. What does this add to it? It does one super cool thing, and then some minor stuff that's very kind of neat. First of all, your general your general hidden roll cards, outlaws, renegades, deputies, they are functioning the same, but they've got a little trigger that happens if you decide to self-reveal. Now, one person asked me, I never played the sheriff when I was this. No, sheriff's the same because it's already opened. You play the game with 3 additional bullets instead of 2. So maybe that's what it is different here. I can't remember. I think in the original one you only got 2, but you're going to get 3 bullets. But here's what's cool. If all these rolls have different little triggers. Kind of think like Battlestar Galactica. When you reveal yourself, you get to do a bit of, I forget what they call it, a damage, a secret attack. I know everybody's screaming it out there. Like an ambush thing you can do. Well, it's very similar with here, like this outlaw. Reveal this card when another player is about to gain life points. In other words, they've got beer or something else is triggering. That player does not gain those life points. So boom, maybe nobody knows I'm the outlaw at all, but I don't want the sheriff to heal up. So I flip over and reveal who I am openly to stop them from getting life points. Or maybe everybody's pretty sure I'm already the outlaw, but I've saved this because it's a cool little trigger and I flip it and I do a little extra thing. So it's an extra little wrinkle that's inside Bang the Dice Game. And the other outlaws, reveal this card at the start of your turn. Exchange the arrows held by any 2 players. So I could suddenly take, like, maybe my buddy outlaw has a ton of arrows, and I shift them over to the sheriff and take the sheriff's 1 arrow and put it with my buddy. So I could just flip-flop them around. So that's like a deputy. Reveal this card immediately after another player reveals his roll. That player's roll has no effect and may no longer be used. So he just blocked it. And so those are mixed in. You don't know who has what, and then they got the extra little wrinkle with it. That is awesome. I sat down to play this with Mac, who does some reviews with me on here. He played it before. He goes, I go, man, I don't know if we want to add these in. He goes, trust me, you want to add them in. They're easy, they're simple, and they're awesome. That's the best thing that comes with this expansion. In my opinion, you'll never use the old cards again. The only thing you could do is you probably could jump this up in the player count if you wanted to. Next comes 2 extra die. These die are kind of off-colored. Think antique white. Okay, you got your regular pristine white, then you got these 2 antique white cards. One of them is a Loudmouth die. The Loudmouth die has a cool thing on it. He's got a double Gatling, so this Gatling will count as 2. He's got 2 circles around his 2 and 2 circles around his 1. Well, what does that mean? That means now if I roll it, I keep it, just like Yahtzee dice. Oh, by the way, if I'm going to roll one of these, I got to get rid of one of the regular white dice. So I'm not rolling extra die. I'm simply rolling, I'm replacing at my choice one of these off-colored antique whites with one of those. Although I didn't have them, but I believe there's one guy that gets to roll all 6 dice. I think. Pretty sure. Because there's a bunch of new rolls in here as well. I'll get to those in a second. So Loudmouth is a better shooter. Gatling 1 and 2. He's still got a dynamite and arrow, but if he gets his single little bullet slug, he shoots himself in the foot or herself. So you can do damage to yourself, like a typical Loudmouth. So kind of cool. Seemed like it never failed. Somebody picked that, boom, they were shooting themselves in the foot. Then you have what I'm calling, I think it's called the coward die. The coward die has a broken golden arrow looking thing. That means you can get rid of one of your arrows, kind of a nice deal. And it's got a little 2 beer instead of 1 beer on it. And it's got a beer on the other side. You're not going to be shooting anybody, or sorry, you can do 1 shot, but the number 2 shot's gone. And you can't hurt yourself. You can just, it's a good way to heal. So those are great. You've got a deal that came up and it was kind of nice. It was kind of different. Hold on. We're going to pour the Jesse James. Now this is a bourbon, but it's a pretty bottom of the shelf bourbon. No offense to the American Outlaw Bourbon Whiskey Company called the original Jesse James. But it fit, so we're pouring it. This is 40% ABV. That means it's 40% alcohol by volume. That's what most of the world uses. The United States also uses proof. Proof is simply double that. So this is an 80 proof. If you ever wonder, if you got 100 proof, it means it's 50% alcohol by volume. That bottle is 50% alcohol. A bourbon, by the way, make sure it says, it doesn't say straight bourbon, it just says bourbon. There's actually some legality with that. I'll tell you what straight bourbon is. Straight bourbon, which this is not, has to be aged at least 2 years in a virgin oak barrel. It's never had anything else in it. And it's got to be at least 51% corn as the grain in it. The mash bill can mean it has 51% corn, or maybe it's 55 corn, and then it's going to have 20 rye, and then maybe it's going to have some barley in it. That's the mash bill, but it's got to be at least 51% corn. So this one smells like it's got a lot of more of a neutral grain kind of spirit in it. Again, this one's pretty kind of bottom, I won't say bottom shelf, but it's lower end. But heck, it's Jesse James, and we're talking bang the dice game and had to be in. Back to the game, you also have the Ghost card. Ghost card's kind of interesting. We only played with it once. The first person to get killed becomes a ghost, and what they do is when they roll their die, they get to, I got to remember, I think they choose 2 die and they roll them, and then based on the face of that die, there are little chits that they have, and they can place these chits on somebody and it'll prevent them from getting that. Now I feel like I'm getting something wrong here, so scream and yell at me if I'm totally wrong, but I think I've got the gist of it. So in other words, if the sheriff, you know he's going to want to heal, and I'm wanting to block the sheriff because I'm the ghost and I was an outlaw, I would roll 2 die, hopefully get beer, and then I can put this little beer token in front of the sheriff, and if he rolls a single beer die, that'll not count. Now he could roll 3, or she could roll 3 more, and that would be fine. But that is how the ghost works. It's kind of nice to keep somebody in a little bit longer since it is an elimination game. So I think that's a good thing to have in there. By the time the ghost came up, the game was almost over, so I only got to see it used once when we played. So could be my noviceness with seeing that only come up one time. A roll, by the way, you get extra, there's some extra chits, extra bullets, extra arrows, I think. Yeah, I think they give you 1 extra arrow. I'm going to need to look at the back to tell you what you get. You physically get 2 bang, the old Saloon dice, 8 new character or 8 character cards. Those have those additional little deals on them. 9 rolls, 1 ghost renegade. That's one I just showed you the roll. 1 ghost card, 7 ghost tokens. Those are the ones that you can place in front of people. 1 Indian Chief's arrow. I'm going to explain that. And 3 new summary cards, 4 bullet tokens in the game rules. So no new arrows, just some more bullet tokens. This Golden Chief's arrow I found very, very interesting. It's like a regular arrow, same size, but it's got a yellow background. What it does is in that pile of arrows you got sitting on the table, which by the way, again, is the trigger. When those arrows are all gone and the person takes the last one, you pause the game. And if I have 3 arrows, I take 3 wounds. If you have no arrows, no wounds. If you have 1, so on. Speeds up the damage that's being taken, which speeds the game up as a whole. Perfect. If you choose, and it's your choice. So I roll one of the arrow dies, and when you roll an arrow, you have to take an arrow. You can re-roll that die, but you must take an arrow when it comes up. I have the choice. If this golden one is out there, I can take it. Now it's worth 2. Counts as 2 arrows, so it'll do more damage. But if I have the most arrows when the final arrow is taken and everybody's going to take their wounds, I only take 1 damage. So if you know you've got a ton of arrows in front of you and you're going to just take a walloping, you want to get this because it's going to reduce you down to 1. Feels kind of like a get out of jail card. You're just loading those arrows up, but hey, I don't care. If anything, you want to make sure you have the majority. You don't want somebody sliding in and you take a big old hit from your arrows plus 2 because you got this one. Love this. So again, in wrap up, let me give a taste real quick. Not bad. Not great. We haven't done a full review on this on Scotch Test Dummies yet. We're planning on it. It tastes like a grain. It feels like it's got a grain in it. Maybe a little bit of a buttered grain, if that sounds... If you've ever had cream of wheat and you just put butter in it, when I was in the Army, we had that often. It kind of tastes like that with a little bit of that alcohol sting or burn. You can tell it's young. Since it doesn't say single barrel, it means it hasn't been in a barrel for more than 2 years. It's probably been in, if I were to guess, 15 months. 15 months, maybe a few more. But you can tell it's very young. It has more of that grainy alcohol taste. Again, goes perfect with this, and if you're ever over at my house, you can have a dram, and I got stuff that's many years older than this, okay? Back to Bang Old Saloon. If you like Bang, this is a must-buy. Must-buy. I always forget who even puts this out. It's a Italian company or Spanish company. I don't even know. Sorry. DV Gucci? Horrible. I'm sure somebody knows. Like an idiot. I apologize. This, though, is a must. These extra little kickers that are in the roll cards, the hidden roll cards, are beautiful. I'll never play with the old bland ones again. It's so nice to have that extra little whoosh, that extra little bam, you can't do something. All right, when you trigger it off, and it might even be worth revealing yourself, say you're the outlaw, the deputy, to get that to trigger when you want it to, even though it exposes you. Nice little layer. Having 2 different kinds of dice that add in a little bit something, one that's hazardous but can do a lot of damage, one that's cowardly but helps heal you a little bit. Nice little wrinkle. And then again, you can never go wrong with all the extra little rolls. I think, hold on, the Apache, I believe. Oh no, if you roll an arrow, you may take the Indian Chief's arrow from another player. That's what he gets to do. He's a new guy. So he actually gets to take that golden arrow away from somebody, which is awesome if you've got it because you know you got a ton and he ends up stealing it from you. If he's in play though, and everybody knows when these are in play, you're probably going to be a lot less likely to take it. Obviously, he's going to just nail you. So having these extra rolls, beautiful, refreshes the game a little bit. The dice are nice. The Chief's arrow is wonderful. And again, I'm going to say if you've got Bang, the dice game, Old Saloon Bang, must buy, go get it. Don't worry so much about the Jesse James bourbon. This is probably a better mixer rather than single. And single meaning I just drink it neat without anything else. If you haven't had a chance, please go check out ScotchTestDummies.com. We're going really well, really strong, and we're having a ball. We're at about 234 episodes or something. You can even buy whiskey nosing glasses with our logo on it. Oh yeah, little piece of the Bart. All right, I usually say scotch it, you Scotch gods, on the whiskey show. So maybe I should say cardboard it, you cardboard gods. I'll find a catchphrase that works for bonding with board games at some point in time. See you guys later. Game, game, game.